It's 4 a.m. in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Port St. Lucie is located on the east coast of Florida, halfway between Orlando and Miami. The area was developed over dense swampland and was advertised as an oasis for retirees coming from the north to experience the relaxing, sun-soaked life of Florida. The issue with the Port St. Lucie area was that its development could never keep up with the ever-growing population. More and more houses were built to keep up with the people moving in, but the community wasn't planned for that big of an expansion. Because of this, brand new state-of-the-art homes sat nestled between plots of undeveloped swamplands. There was a house on Grandeur Street that sat like this, a modern house sandwiched between two huge, dense, jungle-like pieces of land. Across the street from the house was a similar landscape. It was obvious that it was the first house to be built in this newly acquired area for the Port St. Lucie expansion. Despite the house sitting alone in the middle of a jungle-like area, in the middle of nowhere, on the night of July 16th, 2011, about a dozen cars were parked out front, and large groups of teenagers were spilling in and out of the home. The dense tree line was absorbing most of the sound coming from the house, but as one got closer, they could hear music blasting inside. About 60 teenagers, college students, and even some delinquent adults were partying inside and around the house. Crushed beer cans littered the lawn, glass bottles could be heard smashing on the floors inside, and beer pong was set up on every flat surface available. It was complete anarchy. Strangers rifled through the cabinets and drawers of the kitchen, looking for food to eat or alcohol to drink. Kids smoked cigarettes inside the home and then put them out on the walls and rug. The floor was covered in a sticky brownish substance. The substance also covered the computer in the living room, where kids were fighting over what song to play next on YouTube. And most of the partygoers were clueless as to whose house they were even in. There had been a Facebook post inviting everyone and anyone to this party, and word traveled around fast. At 4:24 a.m., a call comes into the Port St. Lucie Crime Stoppers, but it's not to report the raging party full of underage kids. In fact, the caller sounds like a teenager himself. On the phone, the young man describes the house party happening on Grandeur Street, and then says that there are 2 dead bodies in the house. The operator on the phone has to be wary about this call. It could be a prank or a roundabout way of getting the cops to come shut down the party. But what if it's not? What if there were 2 dead bodies in the middle of a teenage house party? By the time police arrive at the house, the sun is slowly rising. There were still a few teen stragglers outside, but it looked like the party was dying down. As the officers walked up the driveway, they heard someone talking inside the house. A teenage boy could be seen through the front window, pacing back and forth, talking to himself. An officer knocked on the front door and rang the bell. At first, there was no answer, but then 17-year-old Tyler Hadley opened the door. He was wearing a black shirt and black shorts, and his left hand was hidden behind his back. The officer in front drew his gun and told Tyler to put his hands up. As Tyler was escorted out of the house, he told police that his parents were out of town and they had no right to go inside. But the police had reason to believe that there were 2 dead bodies in the house, so they forced their way in, making an emergency entrance without a warrant. The house was completely wrecked. Furniture was overturned and cigarette burns were all over the walls. The floors were covered in beer bottles, discarded plastic cups, and the smeared brown liquid that police recognized as blood. They find a locked bedroom and have to use all their strength to push open the door. As they enter the room, the teen outside was screaming and begging them not to go in there. Inside, it looked like a tornado had hit the room. The bed in the center was covered in the most random assortment of items. Overturned wooden chairs, plastic containers, emptied out dresser drawers, rolls of wrapping paper, and pieces of mail. The police could not make their way fully in because the floor was covered in clutter. It was like every piece of clothing, furniture, and paper had been thrown in the room. It filled the room to the police's kneecaps. The officers stared at the scene, wondering how they were going to get further in the room when they finally spotted something. A human leg, sticking out from beneath the wreckage. The anonymous caller had been telling the truth. There was a dead body in the bedroom. In fact, there were 2 dead bodies in that bedroom. And as police looked around, they realized they were dealing with one of the most contaminated crime scenes they had ever encountered. This is the murder of Blake and Mary Jo Hadley. Hi, strangers. This is your host, Alexa Morrissey. If you have been following the news, you will know about the story coming out of Mississippi. A teenage girl named Carly Gregg murdered her mother because she found her vape pens containing marijuana. She shot her mother point blank because her mother unearthed her secret drug use, and she didn't want to face the consequences. Carly Gregg is only 14 years old. It's terrifying to think that a child could turn on a parent like that, and just because the parent was doing what parents do. Discipline their child in order to prevent them from making more mistakes in the future. There is no responsible parent that is going to let their young child use drugs or alcohol without any repercussions. As I read about Carly, I was reminded of a similar story, one in which another teenager could not handle his parents' reasonable discipline. It's a terrifying story that reminds you that even if you think you know your children, you may not know what they are capable of until it's too late. So lock your doors and listen closely. This is Stranger in the House. Blake and Mary Jo Hadley moved to Port St. Lucie from Fort Lauderdale in 1987 to be closer to Blake's parents, who had retired in the neighboring community of Stewart. Blake was an engineer at the St. Lucie nuclear power plant, and Mary Jo was an elementary school teacher. They had two sons, Ryan and Tyler. Tyler was younger than Ryan by a couple of years and had always been the quieter of the two boys. According to a neighbor interviewed by Rolling Stone, Tyler had always seemed close to his parents when he was young. He would wait up late into the evenings for his father to return home from working at the power plant, and then they would play basketball for hours in the driveway. When Tyler hit high school, people started to see him differently. In his teen years, Tyler was hard to read. He would be stoic one moment and then try to draw a crowd the next. According to that same Rolling Stone article, in the middle of class, he would start laughing and just blurt out random nonsense. A neighbor once caught Tyler and some other boys smoking in a local wildlife preserve and scolded him because he could have set the preserve on fire by accident. 2 weeks later, Tyler went back to the preserve and set it on fire on purpose. He and some friends lit an old couch doused in gasoline on fire. The fire was significant, but the teens only got off with a warning. In late April of 2011, when Tyler was 17, he got into a fight at a friend's house and was arrested on a charge of aggravated battery. He was sentenced to a week at St. Lucie County Jail, followed by 2 weeks of house arrest. Mary Jo confiscated his cell phone and his car keys. Without his phone, his only communication with his friends was through Facebook. The following is a Facebook message conversation between Tyler and his friend Isadora Gasco.
Don't text me about drugs.
What happened?
My mom has it because I got arrested on Monday, and she's flipping shit. I just got out today.
Oh shit.
Fucking shit sucked.
You bad kid.
Just kidding, it's a pirate's life for me.
LMAO. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't fucking associate with non-pirates.
What?
Okay, I'm done with all the nautical nonsense.
Smiley face, you are so silly. What are you doing?
Nothing. Considering suicide.
Why?
Because I want to die, I guess. What other reasons are there?
Are you being serious?
Yes. I do want to die sometimes.
Don't die. Smoke a bowl whenever you are down.
I used to. Now I drink a lot when I'm depressed. It fills the emptiness inside me.
You are quite a character.
Yes, but all my smiles are fake.
There is something almost sad about this conversation with Isadora. Tyler is clearly disturbed, and the topics in this conversation are quite heavy, but he's not connecting. The conversation is jokey and filled with emojis. And yet, Tyler is discussing suicide. It's like this serious thing he has said doesn't matter at all. Tyler suffered from several mental health issues. He had depression and an eating disorder, and his rampant drug use did not improve his mental state. Port St. Lucie was a quiet town built for retirees. There was nothing for the young people in the area to do, which led many of them to turn to drugs. At one point, the drug problem was so bad that the area got nicknamed Pot St. Lucie. It was easy for Tyler to get his hands on drugs. And one of Tyler's friends said that while most of the teens drank and smoked pot, Tyler took everything to extremes. In addition to pot and alcohol, he took a large amount of pills. He'd been prescribed hydroxyzine, a relatively mild anti-anxiety medication, as well as citalopram, an antidepressant. but he also mixed in things like Percocet, OxyContin, Xanax, and ecstasy. And Mary Jo knew her son was struggling and wanted to get him help. After returning home one night significantly drunk, Mary Jo admitted him to New Horizons, a mental health clinic. In order to commit Tyler, Mary Jo invoked the Baker Act, which under Florida law allows for parents to commit their children, if under the age of 18, to involuntary psychiatric treatment. The act is only used if it is deemed a substantial likelihood that, without intervention, the child will cause serious bodily harm to himself or others shortly. By June of 2011, after several months of counseling, Mary Jo believed that Tyler was finally in a good place mentally. At the beginning of July, the family took a trip to Georgia for a reunion and all seemed well. After the reunion, Tyler's brother Ryan went off to college, and it was Tyler and his parents at home. Despite Mary Jo's belief that Tyler was on the straight path, Tyler was still using drugs. On July 16th, 2011 at 1:15 p.m., Tyler posted the following Facebook status: "Party at my crib tonight? Maybe." Tyler still didn't have his cell phone privileges back and could only use Facebook to communicate with his friends. So when they saw the status, his friends had a hard time believing his parents were going to let him throw a party. And when they asked him if it was really happening, he responded, "I'm working on it." The following is what Tyler said happened after he posted on Facebook. At around 5 p.m., his parents were both home. While they were distracted, he took both their car keys and their phones and hid them in his room. Tyler then went into the garage and took ecstasy. Tyler waited for the drugs to kick in and then grabbed a claw hammer off the garage wall. He went back inside and found his mother sitting at the desk in the living room, reading something on their family computer. According to Tyler, he just stood behind his mother in silence while she looked at the computer. He stared at the back of her head for 5 minutes, and then he slammed the hammer into her. Mary Jo screamed after the first hit and fell off her chair. She screamed and asked him why. He didn't answer. He just continued to beat his mother with the hammer. Tyler's father ran into the room after hearing his wife's screams. Again, Tyler was asked why. Tyler looked at his father and said, "Why the fuck not?" And he then began to beat his father with the hammer. When Tyler was done, both his mother and father were dead, and blood was everywhere. He dragged their bodies into their room and then proceeded to pile furniture and garbage on top of them. He sloppily cleaned up the blood with towels and Clorox wipes. At 8:15 p.m., Tyler posted on Facebook again, "Party at my house, hit me up." When one of his friends asked, "What if your parents come home?" Tyler responded, "They won't, trust me." A few hours later, the Hadley family home was filled to the brim with over 60 drunken teens and young adults. Most people there had no idea who Tyler was or where his parents could be, nor did they care. They stepped on smeared blood on the floor while they played beer pong. Blood got on their fingertips as they played music from the computer that Mary Jo Hadley was just murdered in front of. They partied for hours, unaware that there were 2 corpses behind one of the locked doors. When Tyler's close high school friend Michael Mendel arrived at the party, he immediately asked where Tyler's parents were. And Michael knew Tyler's parents would have never allowed this party, especially while Tyler was still grounded. Tyler changed his story several times that night. He told some people they were away in Orlando, and others that his parents no longer lived there, and this was his house now. As the party went on, Tyler became more and more distressed. When Michael asked him what was wrong, Tyler told him that he killed his parents. At first, Michael didn't believe him.
After he told me, I didn't believe him because he's been my best friend forever. I would never suspect anything like this. And I was looking around. He told me if I look at enough, I can see signs. I looked on the floor, I could see signs of blood. And that's when I went around back and looked in his parents' bedroom.
Michael looked in and saw all the furniture and clutter in the room. But then, he saw a man's legs sticking out from under the wreckage. And Michael didn't know what to do. He closed the door and wandered around the party with Tyler in a daze. There were dead people in a bedroom. His friend had murdered his own parents. Before Michael left the party, he took a selfie with Tyler. Michael stated that he realized that this might be the last time he ever saw his friend again. In the photo, Tyler and Michael are holding up their cups, but there are no smiles, just serious, haunted faces. Michael left the party around 4 a.m. and then called the police, reporting that his best friend had killed his parents. Tyler pleaded no contest to 2 counts of first-degree murder, resulting in his conviction. Because Tyler committed the murders 6 months short of his 18th birthday, he could not be sentenced to death as a minor, as it was banned nationwide in 2005. In 2014, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Here's Tyler addressing the rest of his family after his sentencing.
I still don't understand myself and the reasons for my atrocious actions. I really don't know. Contrary to what anyone else may tell you, I'm telling you the truth. For me to try and explain would be like making excuses, and there is no excuse. I'm sorry to my brother, my grandparents, the rest of my family, and my parents' friends. I'm sorry that I took them away from you.
In April 2016, his sentencing was overturned by an appeal judge who said that life sentences for minors needed review. After his case was reviewed, Tyler was resentenced to life in prison in 2018. The fact that Tyler had signed autographs for fellow inmates and wrote, "It's hammer time," as a macabre reference to the way he murdered his parents, probably didn't help his review. And that's the thing about Tyler Hadley. I've seen interviews where he expresses his remorse over what he did to his parents. But then there are also instances where I can see he relishes the attention, signing autographs and touting that he threw one of the greatest parties ever. Tyler's brother Ryan did visit him in prison after his parents' murder. He told Rolling Stone, "It's what my parents would want me to do. They wouldn't want me to abandon him. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'll probably just sit there and cry." In April 2015, the Hadley house was demolished. Its memory was taken back by the dense swamplands that surrounded it. Tyler Hadley remains in a Florida prison to this day and will never be released. Stay safe, strangers, and thanks for listening. This episode was written by Alexa Morrissey. Stranger in the House is a Boy Wonder production. For all our sources will be listed in the show notes. But a big thank you to the Rolling Stone article, Tyler Hadley's Killer Party by Nathaniel Rich.